Full-time salary, $250 a year.
So you're obviously a bad at what you do.
I'm pretty good.
Here comes alcohol, and we're door dashing alcohol, Amazon, alcohol, potential taquitos and or alcohol. Alcohol. But I put therapy in there. Start with them, one that focuses on the addiction thing. If it means you checking into a center, I know you've already done it, but I would rather you continue to try than give up. Garrett, welcome back to Financial Audit. So your initial video went up November 27th, 2023. So we're actually, we're approaching a year. It was an interesting episode, and I know that I've seen some posts of yours online talking about your battle with sobriety throughout this past year, and I would love to know, just before we jump into things, how is that, or are you sober right now?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love to hear that. I'm not going to go into too much detail. We attempted to record a follow-up once. You fell off the wagon at that point, and that was just an episode that we were not willing to record once we kind of realized that about 10 minutes in. And I am beyond happy and honestly proud that you are in sobriety right now. And that's wonderful. How long has it been?
I'd say since about July.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible.
I'm not the type to keep a specific date to say all right, it's been 90 days.
Since November of last year, when we last talked for a full episode, how have things gone?
Honestly, it's been a tough year. Part of, when we talked and you said it fell off the wagon, I had a multi-year relationship ended, not by my choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what spiraled down there, working through some things with, doctors and medications. I actually had a bad reaction to, they loaded me up on stuff, and it led to something called serotonin syndrome, which can happen with some of those medications. And so there's an ER visit, and, so that was, not fun. And I've honestly lost count. I mean, the tech world is so tumultuous. I think that's probably my fifth job in 4 years now or something, it's
okay.
So I had about a month of unemployment. So that's all the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The good stuff is I have been able to aggressively pay down debt. Unexpectedly, I had, from a company a long time ago, I had some RSUs vested, but I never really expected them to exit anytime soon. But they actually did a private offering buyback. I got a little windfall from that, and that allowed me to clean up some significant debt. So
wow,
all my personal loans are gone. So I have my mortgage and my auto loan.
Wow, how much were you able to sell this for, exchange this for? Nice, dude. That's incredible. So you were a data engineer last time we were talking. You were making $250,000. What does it look like today, your job?
Yeah, so I had to take a little bit of a pullback, probably. So my base now is about $218, potential for 15% bonus. So it could come out close, but I don't know. I'm just not counting on much.
Honestly, it's still incredible. You're obliterating the median household income in the United States. It's still, I mean, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Even if it is a little bit of a step back, I mean, it's still juicy. So, okay, so last time we were looking at an American Express personal loan, and that was at $11,377. The interest rate was kind of unknown, The first episode was a little difficult. We had a personal loan with SoFi at $38,847 at 8.93%. A Wells Fargo mortgage, $520,000 at 2.75%. Insane interest rate, incredible. Auto loan, $34,272. Interest rate also who knows? And then an Amex Sky Miles card. Technically, it had a balance, but it was kind of paid off every single month. We didn't have a checking account or a savings account from you at that time. You mentioned using Fidelity as a savings account, but no mention of a checking account. But we did get knowledge into your Fidelity of a balance of $19,313, and then the second Fidelity account, which was a rollover IRA of $257,000, which is wonderful. Obviously, that is technically due to your income, lower than we'd want to see potentially. If that is kind of looking at everything. Do you have a 401k on top of this somewhere stashed?
I mean, not a big one right now because every time I leave a job, I roll it over. But I mean, that total balance, obviously, with contributions and the strong market, I'm closer to about 450 now total. So
that's awesome.
And that rollover is like 370 as of today.
Yeah, and then we had a third Fidelity account with $48,000 into it. So yeah, let's look and see where you are today. I mean, you already kind of gave us some insight, but I want to see where you are. Mostly, honestly, man, I'm just incredibly thrilled that you are just doing well in life right now, and you've taken those little beat downs that life hands us, and you took them, and even with a little bit of a stumble, you're just in a healthy spot right now. And honestly, to me, that is everything. Like, fuck everything else. That is everything. And I'm so happy to hear that. Let's still take a look. I have a statement for a SoFi personal loan here.
Yeah.
Does this exist, or is this paid off?
I included that because it shows it should be paid off, like that. There's like a 30 grand payment on there or something. And then that's why I sent it. So that's zeroed out.
Beautiful. So yeah, it was at 34,268 at the beginning of the statement. You were at $1,000 payments for your scheduled monthly payments with basically a 9% interest rate, but zeroing that out, beautiful. Love that. That is absolutely incredible. It's a win. We should celebrate it. That's great. Now, mortgage. Okay, we have a $3,000 a month mortgage. It's basically kind of what we were seeing. It's gone down a little, about $12,000. The interest rate is still the same. Why wouldn't it be? You really couldn't get lower. I mean, this is an incredible thing. Are you still happy in this house? How are we feeling about this?
I mean, I love my house. I could definitely, be a forever home. I mean, there's way more space than just I need. I like my toys and stuff, so
Minneapolis, right?
Technically, I say Minneapolis. I'm in a suburb of Minneapolis, but if I say that, people are like, where the hell is that? So it's easier to just be like, Minneapolis.
All right, and now I have a Delta Sky Miles Platinum card. Now, it looks like this gets paid off every month, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, beautiful. And that is the sign of a credit card person. That is what I like to see. We had a membership fee, some Amazon spending, lots of just Amazon in here, Apple bills. Now, spending like this doesn't necessarily matter when it comes to whether or not we're budgeting, whether or not we're paying off debt. Your mortgage, I wouldn't pay off early. It's at an incredible interest rate. You've paid off your personal loan. So it's like, it really just depends on everything else, whether or not the spending is bad. We got some Prime Video, maybe a couple restaurants and some lawn care, U-Haul, lots of Amazon.
There's actually a couple like that U-Haul and that Prime Video. You'll see they're credited. It was identity theft. So those were fraudulent and refunded. You should see the credit on there as well.
Okay, wow. I assume you've gotten a new card and everything with a different number?
Yeah, because I saw that come up. I'm like, I've never touched U-Haul, and it's just this $700 charge. So, yeah.
Out of everything to commit fraud on, renting a truck. It's interesting. What hits your account on a monthly basis?
I still call it about 11, average between, again, we talked before, less early on, more later in the year in theory, but about 11.
How do you feel in your financial life right now in terms of security, safety, comfortability?
Honestly, not very good. I really, the last job, I wanted to get at least a couple years in there to have some steady employment again, because it's going to get to a point where employers are going to see this history and it's like, you spend a year at all of these jobs and I'm like, it's just, I can't change the tech market, but it's tough. And I used to, just a few years ago, I'd be like, if I got laid off, no problem. I'd have another job in a couple weeks. But now I'm like, I was very unsure this last time. And it's still, I was only unemployed for about a month, so it wasn't too bad. I got a little bit of severance and everything, so it wasn't a huge hit, but I I don't feel secure like I did, just say 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, definitely a completely different landscape in tech than then. You seem like to be able to land such a high paying job relatively quickly again, especially in today's market. You seem to win that game pretty well. Like, do you find that you are just like nailing interviews, nailing the resume game, nailing that whole process? Because you seem incredibly marketable.
I interview well, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's just getting past that, and there's a lot of stiff competition out there. There's a lot of very smart people that are looking for work. So going up against that is the big challenge. And I mean, you can just look at 2021. 5 recruiters a day are pinging you versus now it's like one a month. It's such a different landscape.
So then I guess, it wouldn't necessarily hurt in your position for just the sake of mental health to even have maybe more of a stacked emergency fund than even a 6 months. I have these Fidelity accounts here. I'm trying to see, are any of these traditional savings?
So I have 2 cash managements, and I treat one as the checking. You said you didn't have a checking, but that is a checking account. I have, I can write checks from it and, deposits and everything. And then I have another cash management that was meant to be my emergency fund. I had put just like 10 grand in there at one point, but I had to dig into it for some expenses. So it's only got like $1,000 or something. And then there's the 30 odd in the brokerage.
Yep, I see a Roth IRA with 26,000, a rollover IRA with 366, which is great. And then I see what is likely that checking account at the 52,000, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So they group the brokerage, the 2 cash managements, and the HSA on one statement. They'll show like 52,000 as the total of those 4 accounts, but that's kind of how it's kind of hard to read through. I'm not sure why they group some accounts and some get their own statements, but
since I don't have it printed in front of me, could you break that down between the individual, between those accounts?
Yeah, so I think on like the last statement, the individual brokerage was probably about 32,000.
Okay.
What I call my checking it bounces between like 5 and 10 as money comes in and out, and then there was just like that 1,000 left in the, like savings, right? Because I drained that. And then the HSA has about 8,000 in it.
So maybe what our big focus from this conversation to the next then is really stacking up some money, and whether it's that cash account or even putting it in a money market or a high yield savings, maybe just having that extra cushion that at minimum 6 months would be able to sustain our lifestyle, even like a comfortable lifestyle if you wanted to, or we could even do like 9 months of basic living, whatever really relieves that anxiety, because the less anxiety that we can take away in your situation, really just makes me feel better. It's okay if we approach things in a different way. There's no one size fits all thing. Okay, so I saw about $2,000 of spending on that credit card, right? Let's call it 3 plus mortgage. You could probably live off of $7,000 a month, wouldn't you say?
That's about right, yeah.
So what if we stack up $42,000 as quick as we can, which honestly you could probably do within, what would you say, a year's time pretty easily? Maybe we could aggressively shoot for 6 months.
Kind of fortunate up here. Minnesota, especially relative to the cost of living, has one of the highest unemployment payments. So I was actually, I was collecting $900 a week in unemployment, which, more than covers my mortgage and everything. So it's not to say to rely on that, but that is a pretty big benefit compared to, some states where they're like, oh, we max out at $400 or something, I mean.
Let me tell you something that's death level of seriousness. Hackers recently stole the social security numbers of basically every American from national public data. Yeah. And some of this info is floating around online for free. I don't know about you, but that makes my blood boil. But hey, I'm not stressing about it because I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura monitors your personal data 24/7, checking billions of data points like the dark web and court records. And my favorite part, if anything sketchy pops up, you get alerted immediately. And they even cover you with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. And listen, if your identity gets stolen, it's not just your credit that's screwed. It can mess up your entire financial future. Loans, jobs, even getting a place to live. All of it can be at risk. Protecting your personal info is protecting your financial future. So stop leaving yourself vulnerable to data thieves. Go to aura.com/financial audit to get up to a 14-day free trial and see if your info is out there. Seriously, do it before you become a victim. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring today's follow-up. Now let's jump back into the episode. And with your income, you're definitely paying into that system. So there's certainly no shame of getting that because you're paying them taxes. I know that. So yeah, absolutely. So, maybe that is just an extra level of things that take some anxiety off. But I really think if you just see in like a high yield savings account or even just sitting in cash is doing nothing in a Fidelity account, if you just see like $40,000, I really think that'll help because it just lets you know that even though you are skilled in marketing yourself, even though you nail the resume game, you nail the interview game, you still give yourself 6 to maybe even 9 months of being able to figure it out. Like you start hammering and nailing it away if you get laid off on day one, yeah, but you get 6 to 9 months to be able to figure it out so that if you're not seeing movement in the first month, we're not freaking out.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that's our next step.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, this transition has literally just happened. Like, I haven't even got my first paycheck yet. That's how recent this latest job transition was. So, still kind of just switching gears and going from, digging into stuff and getting back into the flow. But I think I'll start probably stacking that because, really the only debt is that car loan, which is 6%, which I know is borderline APR, but it's it's not underwater. It's if I had to, and I do still have 2 cars. There's lots of things like if I was if I had to sell one, and I mean I could survive for a while before I'd be in trouble.
Now, of course, we're aging or pretty darn close to, well, you're 38 now, right?
A couple months yet.
Oh, okay, cool. So we'd be looking, you make $220 now. We'd want to see by age 40, probably just about $660,000 in retirement across the board. So I think if we aggressively get to this emergency fund, maybe we can leave the car and definitely leave the mortgage. And then maybe we just slightly boost investments. I think we're pretty much going to be there. Now, obviously, if markets perform well for a couple of years, you'll get there probably without needing to do it, depending on how markets perform. But I want, even if we're going like flat, let's just say, if it's down, might not necessarily be able to do there, no matter how much we're throwing in, depending on how far down we go. But even if we're just going sideways, I'd want to see us being able to hit that 3 times income, which honestly is usually relatively conservative in general, in my opinion. 40, looking at $660,000, that's not an insignificant amount of money. We usually just do the times income thing. So because you have a stronger income, that means we have a bit more aggressive goals. But I really think we could get there, and I think that's just our broader plan. Emergency fund, I'd want to get there as quick as possible. Then we get that 3 times income by 40, which you should be able to do, maybe just a little bit of tweaking. But that's honestly, looking at your situation, that's what I would do. And I would focus on the continued sobriety being number 1, in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's probably where I'm struggling the most, just in general. Like, I just don't feel as healthy as I, did a few years ago before, things got really bad. And, I mean, I know I'm not 25 anymore, but still, I shouldn't feel like this bad, and that's that's kind of rough on me. That's rough on me mentally to feel like my body's kind of aging this much.
Well, maybe you and I do a little pact, man. We see ourselves in the gym a couple days a week and we hold ourselves accountable with each other. Because you and I both were on the bigger side, and that can really help both of us feel higher energy and just live longer and healthier. That's something that we might start adding to this. I will say this has nothing to do with the feeling, but compared to the last call that is just behind the scenes, whatever, it won't be seen, you sound and look 10 times better from my perspective. So I will tell you that
35. The hard part is at 35. So it was a few years ago, but I was probably in like the best shape of my life. I was about 80, 90 pounds lighter, much stronger. I mean, I was walking around at like 12% body fat,
Yeah.
And then I just fell into the drinking and then the eating with the drinking and the eating and drinking. And then it seriously, in 2 years, I'm like, the transformation is horrible. And so I know I can do it, and I've done it before. Like, I've been in a very good shape, but it's so much harder getting it back than just maintaining it. And the fact that I just let it slip away over the years, and it affected so many different things. I didn't have energy to, for activities with friends and family, and
absolutely. Since your sobriety since July, have you noticed anything more positive towards the eating part of the health?
Yeah, definitely. It's because that's like, it's a lot easier to be disciplined, because that's what would happen is I would be drinking all day or whatever, and then that's when it's like, oh, F it, DoorDash, McDonald's, like, it's just such a bad combination. And it's when I'm not inebriated, I can just eat normally, eat healthy. It's not, I would just throw it all away once I got into bad shape.
Are you in any groups? Are you in therapy? Are we seeking help externally at all?
I've seen a few. I haven't really connected with many. And then I also, like I said, I had that, like I saw one, and I mean, she literally prescribed like 5 things at once. And it was so many, it's like this 3 times a day, this twice, this as needed, this once a day, and throwing all that stuff at me. That's like that serotonin syndrome was not enjoyable,
No.
So that kind of soured my
maybe instead of a psychiatrist, maybe we're looking at a psychologist specifically focused in the world of addiction. Because if that, addiction and activity, and maybe honestly, you make a strong income, maybe we'll look at a personal trainer and dietitian as well. That's been something I've been actively considering for myself. And that could be just a great way just to continue to be active with some accountability. Because it's so, I only experience, barely, I can't relate to the extreme addiction by any means. But when just talking about food or anything, it's so much easier when there's someone holding you accountable. If it's just holding yourself accountable, like, dude, I fall into that fast food life so easily, and just, I don't know, that might be something to look to.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, let's celebrate some wins here, man. I mean, one, since July, doing incredible. Paying off personal loans, incredible. And the retirement on the way to hitting that 3 times salary goal by 40. Emergency fund, we have the ability to get there. Your spending isn't crazy for your income situation. There are wins here to legitimately celebrate. I think you've turned some things around. We're getting to a healthier place mentally, physically, and financially. And I think these are things that, the community and myself and the team here that, we all celebrate. And I think you should as well, and you should feel proud about. And I think everyone's going to be rooting for you. And I can't wait to see what a year from now looks like.
For myself, and honestly, the broader community as a whole, things start to stabilize and improve a little bit, because you know, I know there's a lot of people out there that are having a tough time with job searches and have been unemployed for long periods. And I do have some, guilt about that when I read the posts. I've been looking for 10 months and I come on here and I'm like, oh, I got a job. I got fired. I got another one. I got another one, and
Yeah.
there's people
You're
that are just,
marketable. You did that though, man. It is a
yeah,
competition out there, and I know it definitely sucks when anyone's struggling. It absolutely does. But you've learned the game. You're winning the game. And maybe, maybe there's a certain point where when you feel stabilized and stuff, you're able to connect with some of these people and help them win the game the same way you have.
yeah,
But I wouldn't feel bad about that. Like, you
yeah.
are a winner in that field. You have learned it. And that's not something to necessarily feel bad about. It's good to have sympathy for others, don't get me wrong. But let's not feel bad just because you're successful.
It's just, there's a lot of cynicism in the new grads right now because they're coming into a tough space. And that's the other thing. Like, I've been doing this for a while. So
Hmm.
if you're going to find a job, they look at somebody, 10, 15 years of experience, like, sure,
Yeah.
that's an easy hire versus like, oh, should we gamble on this new grad? And, you know, that kind of difference. I don't know. It's,
For what it's worth, I mean, by the time you were graduating, like, we were still a few years into the recession, right? So it's not like you didn't have to come out into a hard situation either.
I took a very interesting path. So first off, I don't have a degree.
Okay.
I was in and out of college a couple times. I would drop out, I would go back. Eventually, you're right. It was about 2010 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I took like a contract job, literally fixing Xerox copiers.
Yeah.
Just fixing copy machines, driving around, and then just kind of jumped into like a help desk job, and then kind of like more of a IT manager, sysadmin job, and I did some coding in there, and then just kind of, so I just kind of jumped into the data space, but I never. I didn't have a degree, I never targeted like computer science or programming in general. Um, and that's also why I didn't start working until I was 26, and my income at that point was very low. I mean, even for, compared to like the new grads were about
Mm-hmm.
twice what I was, right? Because I was just the copy machine guy. So it took a little while to take off, but once I actually started getting some of those more, programming based roles, it jumped up. So I really didn't start saving money until about 29 or 30, which is why I feel better about my situation. Like if I graduated at 22 and just started right away, obviously I'd have a ton more money. But
Right.
um, I took a while to kind of find my way. It wasn't a straight path.
See, there we go, man. That's just another thing about you that's incredible. It's like, I mean, you figured it out. You took the risks. You worked hard. You started grinding from the bottom, and you are where you are with less time to show for it in that higher income space. So that's just another thing to add to your just like another just level of confidence when I think it comes to your situation, and why even with some stumbles that I'm more confident about your future um, than from the outside it might look if someone was just having a broad look at the overall situation. Like, I don't know. I think there's good things to celebrate here, and I'm really happy with where you are today, man. And I'm super excited to see where you continue to go. Reach out to my team at any time, as always. Feel free to. But this is great. You have any final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. Just, the kind of the sobriety mantra, it's really just one day at a time.
All right. Well, I'll see you in a follow up at some point in the future. And thanks to all of you for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.